There it is, the unnatural storm that protects Skull Island. We'll be going through that storm to the Monarch Outpost established to research the unique environment for the next year. The resources there could lead us to a breakthrough, like we've never known. What's wrong? Why are the alarms going crazy? We're going down, Inko! Quick, protect Izuku! My name is Izuku Midoriya. If this reaches anyone, just know that Skull Island's outpost is fallen. Everyone's dead. And if you're watching this, then so am I. Please find Izuku, my son. My only hope is that he'll survive this. Somehow. This seems to be the spot, Commander. We've discovered the bodies of the Midoriyas, Inko and Hisashi. Graves. You mean they were buried? But who could have done that? What about the boy, Izuku? Is he anywhere to be seen? Just then, the soldiers would be attacked by a group of skull crawlers, and some of the soldiers would be eaten, when suddenly a skull crawler would scream out in pain. As blood would pour out of its side, a green-haired boy would pick up the giant creature and tear it in half. Behind him would be the titan that everyone there knew. Kong. As he joined the boy in fighting and killing the skull crawlers, the soldiers would watch in amazement as both Kong and the boy seemed to fight completely in sync with each other, making short work of the crawlers. Once the crawlers had been dealt with, Kong would walk away, leaving the green-haired boy alone with the soldiers. Well, it looks like the distress signal actually made its way through. I'm actually quite impressed. I wasn't actually expecting to see you guys here. I mean, one minute I'm just getting some water, the next thing I know, I hear those damn skull crawlers, and to my surprise, gunfire. Command, regarding to your questions, I think I just found the answer to both of them. You mean to tell me that Izuku Midoriya is still alive? Yes, that's correct. It has to be him, or either that or I'm seeing a ghost. Oh, I'm Izuku Midoriya, alright. But I haven't been called that in a long time now. Everyone here refers to me as the Prince of Skull Island. The remaining soldiers would take Izuku with them and would return to the Monarch base in Okinawa, Japan, where Izuku would be bathed, given a proper medical evaluation, which what the doctors discovered would shock them. They found more scar tissue in Izuku than anyone else in recorded human history. Along with that, they also found a mutated gene inside of Izuku that took the place of his quirk gene. It was as if Izuku's body, being placed in a state of survival for 10 years, had evolved into a body with remarkable abilities that matched Kong. The doctors would run tests saying that Izuku had the strength, speed, agility, durability, and prowess of Kong, which had allowed for Izuku to have a chance of surviving on Skull Island. This is incredible. If these readings are correct, then this child is stronger than All Might. What should we do with him? I would love to keep him here and run more tests on the boy. We might find a way of harnessing the Titan's power and allowing humanity to reclaim its place as the apex predators of the world. The doctor would say excitedly. Doctor, are you insane? This child will be allowed to choose for himself what he wants to do, because unless you forgot, it's most likely that he was trained by not just Kong, but by the Iwi people who have killed every soldier that we sent there to remove them from that island. So, we really don't want to piss him off, the commander would say in a stern tone, noticing that Izuku was watching them with a smirk on his face. Later that night, Izuku would be eating in the mess hall when the soldier he had saved would sit down beside him, thanking him for saving his life. Izuku would smile, saying that it was no big deal and that he'd killed probably about 100 skull crawlers during his time on that island. The next day, Izuku would be sat down in a room for a psychological evaluation. "Hello, Izuku. My name is Dr. Sewazawa, and I'm here to evaluate your mental state and find out exactly what happened to you over the past 10 years, especially on how you survived and what caused the accident in the first place." The doctor would tell Izuku as he clicks his pen and begins to write things down. "I'll tell you what happened, all right. The first thing to go wrong was when the lightning struck the helicopter we went on. It caused us to crash. The pilot died on impact, and Dad managed to drag us out before the helicopter blew up. Mom had gotten a few cuts on her leg. Little did we know how bad that would end up to be later on. Somehow, after that, we managed to reach the outpost with little to nothing going wrong, and Dad thought everything was going to be all right until he saw what happened to the outpost. I still remember seeing that relief in his face turn to a look of complete despair. Mom couldn't handle the pressure anymore. Her body was shaking terribly. The loss of blood was getting to her as she screamed out in fear. Then it all happened. The skull crawlers noticed us, and before we could even run away, my mother was wrapped up in 2 skull crawlers' tongues and ripped apart in front of my eyes. I was paralyzed, unable to move any further until my father picked me up and ran as fast as he could. All I remember him saying was that everything was going to be okay. He ran further and further. I knew he had to be tired, but he still kept pushing it further and further until we didn't hear anything else. We thought that we were safe, and that was our mistake. Dad finally let me go, and I stumbled forward and hit the ground. Tears ran down my face. I had trouble processing everything. Nothing made sense. It was all a blur until I felt a hand on my back, pushing me out of the way. Looking back, I saw my father in the ultimate act of love, sacrificing himself so that I could live, as a giant bamboo-like spider leg impaled him. Blood went everywhere. I remember being covered in my father's blood, tears rolling down his face. There was no pain, no hate, no anger on his face, but instead there was a look of relief and sorrow on my father's face. In his final breath, he told me that he loved me and how sorry he was for all this, and above all, he told me to survive. I had prepared myself for death, but those words sparked something in me as I rose from the ground with tears streaming down my face, covered in my father's blood. I let out a scream, not one filled with terror, but one of rage, frustration, hatred, and most of all, defiance. The skull crawlers must have heard it, because they came running, but I stood my ground. And that's when he appeared. Of all things that could have happened, Kong appeared and let out his roar while he beat his chest. In an instant, Kong crushed the mother Longleg as he charged towards the skull crawlers, ripping the head off of the first one, before then using a tree to impale another, and finally ripping the last one in half. Seemed fitting to me after what they did to my mother. Kong then picked me up and spent some time looking at me before placing me in the palm of his hand and taking me to where I would later come to know as home on the island. Kong dropped me off with the Iwi people, where they decided to take me in and begin to train me in the art of survival and combat. They were brutal but efficient. Kong was king of the island, and the Iwi people respected him greatly, even going so far as to worship him. Over the years, I began to show signs of a quirk awakening. That was something that should have been impossible. As you should well know, I was diagnosed as being quirkless. That wasn't the only strange thing, as I began to show signs of having the same attributes as Kong, leading to the Iwi people calling me the son of Kong, Prince of Skull Island. I began to learn from Kong, matching his moves and combat style, When I was 6, I killed my first skullcrawler by ripping its bottom jaw off. Kong approved, and so did the Iwi people. That was my first step into becoming the proper prince they had declared me as. I ripped the sharpest teeth out of the skullcrawlers I killed, and later I used them and the technology from the stations posted on Skull Island to make weapons such as my knife, multiple daggers, and spears for the Iwi people. I gave back to them as much as I could over the years. They took good care of me. I found many things on Skull Island. I learned loss. I learned hatred. I learned despair. I learned desperation. I learned discipline. I learned to survive. I learned fear and how to conquer it. I learned hope. I learned love. And I learned peace. All of these lessons are precious to me. And now I am here as I look out onto the city. All I can see is another jungle, but one made of concrete. It's filled with people who know anger, who know pain, who know hate, who have felt despair, and those who seek power, and those who abuse it. Tell me, Doctor, what sane person thinks this concrete jungle of yours is any better than Skull Island? Izuku would ask while looking out the window. The doctor would get up and walk over to the window, gazing into the city below, saying, I honestly can't say it is. Our alpha, as you would call it, spends less and less time on patrol these days. It's as if he's getting weaker by the week. What would you do about this if you were given the chance? Dr. Seiwazawa would ask Deku, who would take a deep breath before saying, once people notice the alpha is weak, it's never long before they attempt to take the spot for themselves. Chaos will erupt soon. It's unavoidable. And that's why I've decided that I will become the new alpha here. Kong is the king of Skull Island, so I will become the king of Japan. And finally, this place will know peace. Izuku would look at the doctor as he would be given a full pass, with Monarch itself deciding to sponsor Izuku on his way to becoming the new #1 hero. And that's where we're going to be leaving this part off. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Look forward to part 2 coming next week. And as always, have a blessed rest of your day, guys. Peace.